Hey guys, we haven't done Rusty Beauties update video lately, and I think it's about time to do one because I guess there are people who are new to my channel and they don't know about all the Rusty Beauties that we worked or we are working on or we're gonna be working on. Even though there's not much progress with most of them, I just like to go through each and every one and explain everything for those people who are not familiar with the channel, so they get on board too. So to begin with, I'd like to make something clear, which is not very clear from the way I present my Rusty Beauties, I guess. So I want to make sure that everybody's on the same page here. Even people who've been with me for a long time, I realize that they're not very clear what Rusty Beauty falls in what category. There are two different categories here, and I will explain what they are. But first, let me say that many people believe that this is a restoration shop here, and it is not. This is a shop where we build limousines, where we build barber shops in tow vehicles like sprinters and transits and stuff like that. So that's our main business. But sometimes when we are not busy, we have time to do other things. And one of these other things is those sports cars. So this is where the shop projects category comes in. These are the sports cars, the Triumphs that Jake bought, and I'm working on them, but I'm working during work hours when we're not busy with limousines. So these are the shop projects. The other category of Rusty Beauties is my personal projects, which are my own vehicles, and that Jake, my boss, generously allow me to work on in the shop. But of course, on these I can only work at night and on the weekends, of course, in my own time. That is why, guys, you don't see a lot of progress on my GT6, for example, because it is my personal project and I don't find time lately to come after hours or in weekends to work on it. That's why you see me jumping back and forth from one project to another, because I find time during work hours sometimes to work a little bit on a shop project, but I don't have time to work on my own project. Or sometimes it would be the opposite. During the day I'm busy with limousines, and after hours actually I can work a little bit on my own project. So that's why I'm jumping on another project right now. So that's something that I wanted to make clear. And now let's go and see each and every one of our Rusty Beauties, at least the ones that are here. And as I'm showing you, I'm gonna tell you a little bit more about it. So in no particular order, since we're standing here, let's start with this Rusty Beauty. So this is 1974 Triumph Tr6, and this is one of the shop projects. When we bought it, it looked from 10 feet away, it looked great, but actually it had a very rotten frame, which we had to replace. We didn't even think of salvaging that frame because it was in a really bad shape. We just bought another frame that wasn't new too, but it needed just a little bit of repair. We've done that, and frame-wise, we are good now. Then I started looking at the body, and then when we removed the fenders turned out to be in a very good shape because they were replaced already. But the body itself was really, really bad. Somebody attempted to repair it, but all they did was they wrapped the rust in patches. Like they just put patches on top of the rust, and the rust kept going and eating and eating and eating more of the body. So anyways, the body right now is almost ready for paint. There was a lot of work done lately. In the summer, I actually had a lot of time during the day, and I worked on this car, and yeah, and now it is almost ready for paint. So the idea maybe, I think, is the following. We're gonna put the body on the frame one more time. We're gonna put the doors, the fenders, the bonnet, the boot lid, and everything. We're gonna put it on the car. We're gonna make sure that everything lines up one more time, and we're gonna do a little bit of body work where the panels meet each other, because that needs to be done. And then we're gonna take it apart again, and we're gonna send it for paint. They're gonna paint all the panels separately, and we're gonna bring them back, and we're gonna start assembling the car on the frame with everything that it needs. But that's the main reason why I want to put them one more time on the body, because all the body work needs to be done when the car is assembled. I don't want it to be done on separate panels, and then when we put them together to figure out that they don't match each other. Engine wise, the car when it came, the engine, actually the block is over there, but it's a bare block. All the rest of the parts are in these bins, and decided that instead of rebuilding this engine, we're gonna actually put another one in. We went and we bought this engine from another interesting car, a Tr6 that was converted into electric vehicle. So this engine wasn't needed anymore, so we bought it and we're gonna use this engine. Of course, we're gonna have to recondition it, we're gonna have to check it and see if it needs any work, but at least it's a complete engine, it's not something that's in boxes. And here underneath it's covered, but this is the frame that we repaired for this car, and all the suspension parts are painted, or at least primered. They're up there. So we're gonna start assembling it once it comes back from paint, and we're gonna go from there. So we're hoping that soon this Rusty Beauty is gonna be on the road again, hopefully by next summer. And since we are in a Tr6 mode, this is our 1973 Tr6. It started as a partnership between me and Jake. I was gonna work on it only after hours, and actually I did a lot of work after hours on it. But since we weren't busy at some point in the shop for a few months, we decided to turn it into a shop project, and I started working on it during work hours. So it was taken apart when we bought it. It was partially disassembled. The previous owner had issues with the frames, so he bought a new frame, or reconditioned frame, and just transferred the suspension and the engine and the transmission on it and put the body on top, and that was it. That's how we bought it. Everything else came in boxes, and it was a mess. It took us like 2 or 3 years, I don't know how long it took us, to fix all the issues with the body, weld it, do the body work and paint it, and now it is a gorgeous car. It has a tan leather interior, it's a real leather. We made those covers here in the shop ourselves. The dashboard was reconditioned here, and everything. This is a carpet that we made ourselves, new top and everything, like, you know what's involved in restoration. So it's a beautiful vehicle. Jake is still debating whether he wants to sell it or to keep it. It's been here for the last, I think, 2 years, ready and not being driven too much. I drove it a little bit in the summer just to make sure that everything is still fine with it, and that's about it. So there's a lot of videos on my channel. There's a playlist for it, and you can see the full restoration from start to finish. And while we are still on a Tr6 mode, let's talk a little bit about the 1970 Triumph Tr6 that I was restoring here in the shop. So let's start with the story of the car. It came here for a little frame repair that John, the owner, wanted us to do. And we did that, but while we were doing it, there were other issues that we found, and slowly this car turned into a complete restoration. As you know, frame repair was done, I rebuilt the engine, and a little bit at a time, we brought it to a stage where the car was ready for paint. So John was supposed to take it to paint and bring it back, and then we were gonna finish it, but this is where things went wrong between Jake, the owner of the shop, and John. So for one reason or another, John took his car and all his parts, and the car is never coming back to our shop, unfortunately. That's one of the projects that I started, and I'm never gonna be able to finish. But as far as I know, John is working on the car. He took it to paint, and hopefully he's gonna finish the car, and we're gonna see it maybe on one of the car shows that we go in the summer. Like, I have an emotional connection with this car too. So that's about the 1970 Tr6, but hopefully we're gonna have other Rusty Beauties that we're gonna see in future here. So anyways, let's move to our next project. And the last of the shop projects is this 1960 Tr3. It's buried here behind lots of things. This is actually the pile of its own parts. So this is the latest one actually that we bought this spring, I think in April, and it's been sitting here waiting patiently now for its turn to be restored. It's in a pretty good shape, even though it looks bad. Like, there's some parts, like the fenders are pretty rusted, the front fenders, But other than that, the body itself is in a pretty good shape. As far as I know, it came from Detroit to Canada a few years ago. It was bought by a gentleman in Windsor, Ontario in Canada, and then it sat in his garage for a few years. He was intending to restore it, but for one reason or another he decided that he's gonna sell it, and we bought it from him. We didn't need a project at the time, but since it was something that we were looking for, we were interested in, we bought it, and now it's sitting here. So like I said, it's a shop project, and I'm gonna start working on it once I finish with the 74 Tr6. The engine, we don't know about it. It's a complete engine, but I have the feeling that it's been rebuilt a long time ago because it's painted, and there's a lot of used parts in those containers that came from an engine. So I believe that somebody rebuilt it years ago. But anyways, we're gonna have to take it apart and double check everything. Hopefully it is in a good shape, and we're gonna just change the seals and gaskets, and we're gonna go from there. The body, like I said, is in a not too bad shape, but also with the body we have many of these additional panels. We have new floors, we have 2 or 3 trunk lids, we have 3 bonnets, and we even have this front valance that is sitting here. So we have many parts that can go with this car. So not much about it, because ever since it came here it was parked. There are 3 videos, I believe, on my channel that you can see how we acquired it. I'm sure there's gonna be many more, but when the time comes. For now, she's here waiting patiently for her turn. And here I'd like to mention the 1964 Triumph Tr6, which belongs to Jake. And even though this car is not in the shop for a few years now, I still consider it one of my babies, one of my rusty beauties, because I've done a lot of work on it. I haven't restored it, somebody else restored it years ago, but I rebuilt the engine and the overdrive. So just for the people who are new to this channel, I want to mention these cars so they can go and check the playlist on my channel. There's a series of videos about the engine rebuild on that car. There's another series of videos about the overdrive overhauling. Yeah, other than that, nothing new about it. Jake is still keeping it in his cottage, and he's driving it in the summer every once in a while. And hopefully one day we're gonna see it again, because I haven't seen it in a long time and I miss it. I miss that rusty beauty. But anyways, that's about it. So far, all these projects were either shop projects or customers projects, but now let me show you all my personal projects. This is the first personal project that I want to show you. That's my own rusty beauty, and it is 1972 Triumph GT6. Again, every time I tell the same story, but I know that there are people who don't know it, so I'm gonna tell it again. This car has been donated by Keith Edgington, who is one of my YouTube viewers. He had it sitting for 30 years in his garage, taken apart. He was going to restore it, but for one reason or another he never got around to do that. He did some things, like he sandblasted the frame and repaired most of it. He cleaned up and painted some of the suspension parts, and that's where he stopped, and the car sat for 30 years. But one day he contacted me and he said, you know what, Elin, I think I'm never gonna finish this car, so I'd like it to be finished, and you are the person who I believe is gonna take a good care of this car, and he's gonna do a great job. So why don't you just come and pick it up? And that's what I did. I went to New Jersey with David Tashingham, as known as Chef Tash, and together we picked it up. We met Keith and his wife and his son and his dog. We had dinner together, and it was fantastic. So yeah, it is a very generous donation. So when I brought it here in the shop, I was gonna work on my other project, on my 1968 Spitfire, but I decided to change the line a little bit, and this car came first. I did a lot of rust repair on the body, on the floors, on everywhere, changed seals. And then with the help of Chef Tash, I rebuilt the suspension. There's still a little bit more of the suspension to be done, but in the most part it is ready. Then the body and bonnet and the doors and everything got primered. So the body got epoxy primered and then high built, and the bonnet is only in epoxy primer. So one day when the work resumes on this car, I'm gonna have to spray this with high build primer, and then everything is gonna get painted eventually. All the parts are sitting here behind me. That was the first thing I did when we brought the car here. I cataloged everything, and all these bins now have numbers and I know what's inside them. All the parts that came from Keith are in them. He gave me lots of new parts and lots of used parts also from his other cars. He had Spitfires as well, and yeah, I have everything here. I bought also a D-type overdrive transmission that I've never got around to test. One day I'm gonna have to test it and see if it works well. Hopefully it doesn't need to be rebuilt, and then if everything is okay, it's gonna go on the car. So after I worked for over a year on the car very intensively, things in my life changed, not in a bad way, but one of the things that happened was that I don't have too much time to work on this car in my own time. So like I said, this is a personal project and I can only work on it after hours and on weekends, and that's why you haven't seen lately videos about it. But there's something that I'm preparing for this car, and if everything goes well, very soon the work on it is going to resume, and it's going to resume with full strength. I mean, I'm going to focus on it and I'm going to get it done because I really miss working on this car. And I promised to Keith that I'm going to finish it, and I will finish it, and one day I'm going to drive it down there to New Jersey again, and we're gonna have a great time with Keith. So anyway, so I'm really grateful about this donation from Keith, and I really appreciate it. So let's move to our next project. So the two next projects that I'm gonna talk about are not here in the shop. One of them is my 1966 Triumph Spitfire. It is in storage right now for the winter, even though the winter is not here yet, but I put it away. So this one I bought in 2015, and it was in a very rough shape, but I managed within 11 months to restore it to a pretty good level. The restoration was not done in a way which I would do right now. I mean, it was my first restoration and I wasn't very experienced at that time, and many things I did wrongly, but I'm still really proud with it because as a first restoration it turned out great. So the first time I drove it was in 2016 when I took it to British Car Day, almost a year after I bought it. Then from 2017, every summer this car is my daily driver, from spring to fall. It is a really nice car, pretty reliable. It has issues every once in a while that I have to deal with. Like lately I have to deal with the clutch and the transmission. There are 3 videos I think from this summer that I worked on it a little bit. But other than that, she's pretty reliable car, and yeah, now she's in storage, but early in the spring we're gonna take it out again and we're gonna start driving. So the other personal project that's waiting for its turn is the 1968 Triumph Spitfire Mark III. So this Spitfire I bought just because it was pretty cheap. I found it online and I paid for it right away without even seeing it, and then a week later I went and picked it up, and ever since it's been sitting here. Now I moved it to my storage as well because it was sitting for a long time outside here in a shipping container, but finally I moved it to my storage. So for that car I haven't done anything other than I stole the engine from it and I rebuilt it and I put it in the 1966 Spitfire. Supposedly that was a temporarily until I rebuilt the original engine of the 66, but later I decided that actually I'm gonna keep this engine in the 66, and for the 68 I'm gonna acquire a GT6 engine and we're gonna turn the 1968 Spitfire into a Spit 6. I know that many people don't like that idea, but honestly I have one Spitfire already. I don't need a second one, and I like that idea and I think I'm gonna go through with it. So that's about it. When the time comes, I hope that there are gonna be some interesting videos. Yeah, that's about it. for now she is sitting in the storage, and who knows how long it's gonna take before I get back to it. So the personal line again is the GT6. I need to finish first, and then the Spitfire is gonna come in line unless something else shows up. That's another story. So that's about it. And there's one more project that I want to talk about. It's not the Triumph, it's not even a British car, but it falls into the category of the Rusty Beauties in the personal line. This is what I'm talking about. So this is 1994 Jeep Wrangler YJ with Renegade trim. You can see over there in the back if you're familiar with these vehicles. So again, this is a personal project. It was an accident that I bought it since she is more like a winter vehicle, 4x4, and actually the engine runs well. When I got her, she wasn't even running, so I had to do some work on it until I managed to start it. And once I started it, it looks like the engine runs pretty well, but the frame was rotten. So I decided to put her in front of all other projects in the personal line and take care of her, because it is a winter vehicle and now the winter is almost here, so we want to use her as a daily driver, and that's why she is first in line now. I've done already a lot of work on the frame. On the front here we repaired, the frame was really rotten, but you can see I repaired from here forward, and on the other side as well. Here there was even more damage, so we repaired all that. Today actually I just finished working on it. I repaired this corner. It was literally missing from somewhere here to the back. The frame was missing, but now it is in a very good shape. And the only one that is still not done is this. That's the only corner that still needs work. And actually this is, compared to the other side, this is like in a really good shape. The other side was from here all the way to the back, it was missing. So anyways, I also bought some new springs for it, and some new stuff that we're gonna install. We're gonna have to work a little bit on the electrical, because some of the lights are not working, the heat is not working, and that's a must for the winter. So we have lots of work still to do on it, but hopefully within the next few weeks we're gonna finish it and we're gonna be able to actually use it in the winter. So just because she's a winter vehicle, she skipped the line and came in front of everybody else. But once she is done, I'm planning to get back to the GT6, and this time I'm gonna be really focused on it and I'm gonna finish it. So that's it, guys. These are all the Rusty Beauties, and I hope that now everybody is clear with what Rusty Beauty falls in which category, and you're not gonna give me troubles anymore, because there's some people telling me, why are you working on this car when you started the other one, and why do you not finish that one? This is the reason why, because I can only work on certain cars in certain times. Anyways, I hope that was interesting for you. Each and every vehicle has a separate playlist on my YouTube channel. So that's everything for today, guys. Thanks for watching, thanks for commenting and subscribing, and stay tuned for more videos about all these Rusty Beauties. Thanks for watching. Bye.